Because I is. You know who I is.
You know who I be.
You know who I is.
I
Ivy the
nailed it.
princess.
Oh, mine's loading. It's unfortunate. I always just like the randomizer at the bottom. Just bam. Whatever comes up. Perfect.
There it goes.
Basketball. Give me a mustache. Can't really tell because I already kind of have one.
Must ask you a question.
I must ask you a question.
Rockstar. A rockstar.
Oops. I seem to get that one often. All right, so.
Oh, whoa.
What?
What?
What? Wiki, what? So I sent you a couple of thoughts. What do you think? Which one?
What the crap are you talking about?
Topic.
What do you mean?
You never like said one way or another. I sent you two.
Look at your YouTube video. Look bottom left-hand corner, right-hand corner.
You changed my logo.
No, I didn't change your logo. You're being silly right now.
I don't see anything. Let me make it bigger here.
It should say at the bottom. It should say at the bottom where it says live, link, and all that good stuff.
I don't have that. I'm not in control of that.
Oh, you should. I thought you would. It's Getting Unstuck.
Oh, yeah, I don't see that at all.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Interesting.
No.
Well, don't I feel like an asshole? No, just kidding. I really don't.
So basically what you're telling me is you feel like your everyday self.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel kind of normal today, you know?
I was looking to see I didn't even know that there's a Mario Brothers collection. Did you know that? Did you know there's a Mario Brothers collection?
Like of sounds? Like
yeah, like here's the end of credits.
There's some memories coming back there. You know how long you had to play to get to that fucking song?
I'm looking to see what else there's. Mario Brother 3. I don't know these.
I don't know that one.
There's a Legend of Zelda.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course. It doesn't ring a bell, though.
No, not to me either. Anyway, what's up, Jeremy Brown?
What up, dude?
Well,
let's get this part started. It's early. You guys got snow coming?
Oh, my gosh. We got anywhere between 7 and 14 inches, but it was supposed to snow about 2 hours ago, and it hasn't snowed a drop of anything.
And so I just saw people posted on Facebook about a second ago.
What they say? We're supposed to get snow. We don't have any snow.
9 a.m. is when they're saying it's going to get there. Sean just posted, where's all this snow at?
Yeah, the non-isms. All right. You ready to roll with this?
Let's get it.
Just kidding. I'm not ready.
But of course.
The princess is not ready. All right. Is this 47? Yes.
47.
All right. Shh. Have you seen Step Brothers?
Yeah.
Shut your mouth. You're just coming off stupid. All right, hold on. Here goes. All right. Performance on Demand Podcast, number 47.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Performance on Demand Podcast with Craig and Jeremy, where you will learn all things endurance sports from training and nutrition to mental strength. Everything you need and want to know in one place.
What's up?
Dude, you're a little quick on the draw there.
What's up,
5, 4. You're still talking.
I know. Well, the good thing is that actually, when we first started doing this podcast, I beat myself up every I would literally go through the podcast and take them out, and I mean, we did them all the time, and then I finally was like, you know what? That's ridiculous.
Screw it.
Because people are going to listen to us and they're going to think, good God, I mean, everything's just like perfect, and well, that's not who we are. So
Not
you're
even close.
going to get us just like we recorded. I'm not going to edit a thing, including redoing that intro, which was really pretty bad.
It was horrible. It was bad. It was bad.
What's up, Jimmy
However,
Brown?
on the flip side of that, it is early by podcasting standards. Usually we're doing this about 12 hours later than right now. On average, I think we've only done a couple of them early in the morning, and they were when I was up there. So we've got the coffee. We've exchanged beer for coffee. Craig's got a legit mug. Looks like Ashlyn made that mug for you. I saw a name on the bottom.
With love, made with love by my daughter.
I saw the name on the bottom. So it's we got some coffee. We got some. I've been up for several hours. I'm on my 4th cup of coffee, so things could get really interesting.
Wow, you've been up for 7 hours and you've only had 4 cups of coffee. That's pretty.
No, I've been up for like 2 hours. 2.5 hours, I guess, and
30 minutes per.
Yeah, that's about the intake rate. And by the time it gets cold, so I've got this. I ordered one of these cool Mind Right cups, right?
Yeah. Hey, where did you get that at?
I don't know. It was like
mindrightmultisport.com.
Yeah, mindrightmultisport.com. That's where I ordered it from.
See, that's how tired you are right now.
No, I'm sitting thinking because to be honest with you, it's a shitty coffee cup. Really? So it's really thin. And when you sit down on the granite, it gets cold so quick. And so you sit down on the granite countertop and it like wobbles side to side. So it's not even like symmetrical. So I'm looking for some different coffee cups. If anybody knows.
I'm thinking you need to buy Yeti. You need to get like the Yeti koozies with your logo on them.
Oh yeah, at $35 a pop. Let me get right on that one. Let me tell
you what though. I have to say.
Oh, those things are freaking legit.
Oh my gosh, my mom was telling me a story at Christmas. She says, "Yeah, I went to go get you one of those Yeti coolers until I realized they were like $300." And she was like, "Yeah, the koozie will be just fine."
Right, and that koozie is freaking.
It is.
I mean,
it is legit.
We took it to the beach back in the summer, and you could sit your beer in the sand in the sun, and your beer would not get hot. Like it's amazing how it works.
And then, apparently, I guess an older version of the Yeti koozie didn't have a rubber. Did yours have a rubber ring around the top?
Yeah.
Okay, so some apparently didn't. I don't know. I thought it was a flaw. But some didn't have that little rubber ring on it. That makes all the difference in the world. And ding, ding, ding around and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh.
Get unstuck.
Absolutely.
This snow. Good gosh, this snow. You're going to put in 4-wheel drive to get out of this crap that we're going to get, and can actually, it's like half the country's getting it.
Yeah, it's I don't want to say unseasonably cold down here because it does get cold, but we got the tail end of the cold front that came through, and I mean right now it's like 40 and with the wind chills like 30, which is really cold for here.
Wow, it is really cold.
Considering 2 days ago I was in shorts and a t-shirt. Actually, yesterday I was in shorts and a t-shirt, and it was like 72, 73. And so it's looking to warm up next week, and that's the advantage, I guess, to living down here on the Gulf is, 1 or 2 days, and it's with a good south wind, and it's warm back up again. But right. I'm looking outside right now, and it looks pretty crappy. So but yeah, no, you said get unstuck, and I think it's a great time of year for us to talk about that because it's the time that we recreate habits like we discussed last week. We start to kind of reestablish most athletes coming out of an off season, and being stuck is a legit thing. Like it's real, and it's tough if you don't have the right tools and tactics in place.
No, I totally agree. So how do you, what do you mean? How do you get unstuck?
Well, I think there's a lot to it, to be honest with you. I think that just like in
and I love interrupting you.
Oh, of course. Not who's there? Interrupting Cal. Moo. So anyway, getting stuck, and I think you want to define what stuck really means. Stuck a lot more often than not is a mental state. It's kind of like It's like when a creek is flowing and there's a drought that comes through and it stops flowing, you get these little stagnant pools built up. Well, what's it take to get that creek going again? Well, it takes a good rain. And so that's kind of what we need to kind of flush ourselves out, I think. A lot of people are coming out of holiday season, a lot of off season. There's several of my athletes did the Houston Marathon a couple weeks ago. So they obviously trained through it. Now they're taking a couple weeks off. And again, it's that recreating that process, getting that, as I said the other night, you get that snowball rolling down the hill. That's how you create an avalanche, but you can't have an avalanche without that snowball. And sometimes that snowball, no matter how small it is tough to make and to get rolling. So being stuck is, it's not a fun place to be. That's for sure.
What were you just saying? What was that? I'm sorry. I missed that whole, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You son of a
here's what I can tell you without a doubt. If you are stuck, it's mental. Period.
Yeah.
It's mental. If you've been doing it and you can't do it unless you've broken a leg, lost a leg, ripped a muscle or something, if there's no other reason outside of, some sort of physiological problem, it's mental. And you see it all the time. You see it with athletes. You see it with people that are in business. You see it in life. They get stuck. And when they get stuck, the reason they get stuck is because their beliefs about whatever it is that they've been doing or are doing have changed to some level.
Right.
So you may, I think the other day we were talking about self-efficacy, and that's kind of it's. You mentioned it. You said you felt it had to do with confidence, and it does. It's a pretty significant part of confidence. It is confidence essentially. It's just another one of the English language or the words that we use to speak of confidence in, I guess, in a doctoral program. But
right.
If you're not confident, if you've lost your confidence, you're going to get stuck.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with an athlete the other day that did Ironman Arizona, and that's where she's at right now. It's like, I want to do something, but I don't really know what I want to do. I don't know how to do what I want to do. And so we took it down to the very base level. And part of the issue with this athlete was there were no goals in place. There was no vision. We've talked about it before. You get, especially those big races, you get to them. If you don't have a plan afterward, that's where I think that's when you can kind of get stuck. That's one great trap to get you stuck.
Brick wall.
Yeah. And then you're standing there staring at the top of this wall thinking, well, I know I want to be on the other side, but shit, there's no ladder. I don't have a clue how to get over this wall. And, I think a lot of times it does come from having quality goal setting times, or procedures rather.
Yeah. And that's hard for, as focused as I am on goals and the importance of them. Yeah. I had an athlete the other day. It was one of Mind Right athletes that came to me with a little bit of a drop in performance right up on the front side of a race. They were just 10 days out. And what they'd realized after having a conversation, there's a really brief conversation, actually, very brief. We talked about a couple of things, and I found out that this athlete had no plan afterwards, none whatsoever. And so they were seeing the completion, the closure of all of this effort, all this time that they had spent training for this event, and all of a sudden they see the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there, and it's like a cliff. And so that's why, and many of the conversations we've had with our athletes, and many of the conversations we've had on this podcast are about ensuring that you have not just one goal. If you have one goal, you don't have enough. You need 2 or 3,
right.
And they need to almost, you don't, and it depends on the person. Some people may complete a half Ironman and be fine with a 5K afterwards, and that's their next goal. But
right.
Sometimes it ups the ante, and you don't always know that.
Crescendo.
Yeah. So make sure that next goal, is a bit further out of reach.
Right.
if you've never done an Ironman, then that's a bit out of reach, but you want that as a goal, maybe because that's what you want to do.
Right.
Just because it's out of reach today doesn't mean it's going to be out of reach tomorrow. And then when you finish that, then you go to the next one, and that goal needs to be something that's going to pull you along as well. If it's not pushing you, it's not going to give you a lot of power.
That's so true.
You need a pillow.
I do. I had a legit yawn right there. That was money. And you say that, and I've been going over. We've gotten a few new athletes in the past few weeks, and one of the first questions is, what are your goals for this year, and what is your weighting of the goals? Like what's the most important, what's least important, so on and so forth. Because from a performance standpoint, you got to plan around those and plan for those. And, the more I think about it, we did a goal setting party on Tuesday night. We had probably about 20 people show up, and I've actually got 2 pieces of poster board that everybody had to write their goal on, and they had to tell the group about it. They had to verbalize it. And I explained to them why verbalizing, so on and so forth. It's like probably an hour and a half to 2 hour event. And everybody had a lot of fun. But what I noticed is, out of all the people there, only maybe 2 or 3 people had a goal or a vision beyond the year of 2016. And so the more I think about it, the more I put in these situations, the more I realize, I wish more people had a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, because, when you start, let's just say you start a business, you don't come into it saying, okay, here's my goals. It's 3 months out. It's like, what are you going to do in 3 years? What are you going to do in 5 years? And unfortunately, now, I think we've discussed this before, maybe on my podcast, talking about going back to my grandfather's time. We don't have that long-term vision anymore. We're definitely a here and now. What can I do? Which is good. You want to stay in the moment, but you also want to kind of have a long-term vision, long-term plan. And I think when it comes to getting unstuck, I think that's a key component to that, is knowing that there's more, knowing that you're not at the end of the line, and kind of on the flip side of that is understanding that it is a process. It's going to take you a long time to get there. You're going to have to take a week off. You're going to have to take days off. You're going to have to take, rest periods, but getting going after that. What works for you to get you going after that? Is it group stuff? Is it slow introduction of things? Is it doing new things? What gets you going? And for me, that's one of the harder parts as a coach is finding out what motivates each athlete, because everybody's different. What makes you tick and what makes you want to do things is different than what makes me tick. To get me going again, I have to get my confidence in my abilities. And so I have to have a good set. Well, I have to get my ass off the couch to go get on the bike to have a good set, right? Whereas for you, it may be, who knows what it could be, but everybody's a little bit different. And I think part of it is having a long-term plan, but part of it's also knowing what makes you tick, your why, essentially. What really lights that fire under your ass? Is it going to a race completely out of shape and getting your ass handed to you for you to say, oh, damn, all right, it's go time. Some people it is. And so I think that's for me, that's part of the formula of getting unstuck, is knowing what makes you go, what fuels your fire.
There was actually a friend of mine that sent me this picture, and she messaged it to me, and I'm going to read it to you real fast because it kind of goes into what I'm about to say. The 3 type of people to surround yourself with: the inspired, the excited, and the grateful. Those are the types of people that you need to surround yourself with. What I would extend that to is you're stuck potentially because of your environment. If you have shifted over to being around people that don't do what it is that you do, not to say that you cut those people out of your life. I'm not saying that at all. However, everyone has their own agenda in life.
Yes.
And everyone tends to like to draw you to their agenda.
Right. And sometimes it lines up. Sometimes it does fit within your mission.
Yes. But not always.
No.
And you have to be cognizant of that agenda. It's not, for example, I spend anywhere between probably 18 and 30 hours a week on homework. That's what I do.
Holy shit, Batman.
I know. I spend a ton of time. So, and it's not homework really from a PhD level is really just a lot of reading. I read a ton of literature. and I have to do a lot of bibliographies, and I have to do a lot of synthesis papers and all kinds of other fun stuff. But if I choose to do what my friends want to do, I may go to B-dubs and watch basketball, football during the football season. I mean, there's all kinds of other things going on that I can allow myself to get magnetized to.
Right.
In doing so, what happens with my work? What suffers?
Yep. It falls
and
behind.
then, well, right. And then it becomes a bit over time. It's, hey, that was a lot of fun. And then you're like, yeah, I'll do more homework tomorrow, and I'll do the other homework. Oh, then tomorrow comes.
I don't have anything Saturday. I can do it all day Saturday.
Right. And I'll spend all day Saturday. And guess what happens? What does life love to do?
Right.
Throw a wrench in your wheel. Throw a wrench in your wheel. And Saturday, next thing you know, you're battling a blown up water heater. It's 30 degrees outside, and you can't even take a warm shower.
Right.
Whatever. I mean, you just never know what happens. So it's making those goals a priority. But at the same time, there has to be balance in your life to be able to go do those things, to have a little bit of freedom and flexibility. If you take all of the fun out of your personal life, those goals can be a little bit more challenging.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think everybody needs to break away. You need to go do those things. Just make sure that they're scheduled in a situation in which, at the end of the day, you're responsible for meeting these goals. And if you are in an environment that's not allowing you to meet them and pulling you away from those goals, well, you're going to get stuck real quick.
Well, and I'm going to try to make a horrible analogy here, because I really attach myself to analogies because they make sense in my brain, and hopefully work for somebody. But if you think about it, let's just think about work life. Everybody's got a job, right? So you're working. The grind is just beating you up. And so what do? You take a vacation. You take a week off. You go to a really cool place, or you just chill out, whatever. Going back to work that first week or two really sucks, right? It's like the post-vacation blues. I've been at the beach all week, and now I'm back to work.
Yep.
But with the consistency of getting back to work, it becomes the normal again, right?
Sure. Right.
And so for me, when I think about it like that, I think about it as athletes coming off an off season, or coming off of a rest period, or transition phase. And it's that you take that time off, and you really want to do something, and you get back to doing it, and you realize, wow, this kind of sucks. I'm not sitting on the couch. I'm not watching Saturday morning cartoons. I'm not doing this brick ride. But once you put the consistency and the pieces in place, that kind of starts that motor again. And an example I'll use, I've got an athlete that absolutely loves to race. Like, this girl would race every freaking weekend if you let her. Well, she's got long course streams. It's really hard to race every single weekend if you're racing long course, because you don't really get in. It's debatable. You don't really get in true quality training if you're always racing. And so, she did Ironman Florida, PR'd it, setting up for Ironman Florida next year. Long season ahead of us, long time before we get there. And so she's having an issue getting going again. And that's kind of what brought me to this topic, is she just can't quite find that motivation to go. And she's a fitness instructor, so she works out all the time, but she just can't find that love. And so I told her, I said, in the next 6 to 8 weeks, I want you to race a 5K every single weekend if you can. I don't care what your times are. I don't care how it feels. I don't care what the weather's like. Go race it. And so for her, I think that's going to be the key to kind of restarting that engine. But it's finding what it is you enjoy about what you're doing that empowers you to do it more consistently. So it's finding what makes you tick.
Well, it's kind of like friends who kind of fall in love over time. At first, they don't have any. I mean, it's like we're just friends, but then you start to, and you have maybe even no thought of having a relationship with that individual, but all of a sudden, over time, you're like, I really kind of like this. That's what I tend to see people, especially running, because some of the people that I've friends with that run at one point hated it, but they learned to love it, not because you have to learn it, but it
becomes a release.
Well, when your mind tells you hate it, what are you going to do? You're going to hate it. Right. It's almost a bit of acceptance to say, I don't have to hate things. In fact, the absence of hate is love. So, I mean, pull the hate away, take your haterade and get in the other damn room. But, but especially, and go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, but to get to that point, you have to do it consistently. You can't run once a week and expect to get a runner's high and fall in love. Like, you have to commit and say, okay, I'm gonna give this thing 2 or 3 weeks of consistent true, honest effort. And if after that point in time I don't like it, well, then I'll back off.
Right.
And that's the way we approach new things is, all right, I don't really like it, but I'll try it and I'll give it a fair shake. And that's what I always ask people. Just give it a fair go. If it's not for you, hey, it's not for you. But you have to do that. And athletes coming specifically out of the off season, I think they forget why they love doing what they do. They forget how those endorphins feel. They forget, the thrill of nailing a set or training with partners or whatever, but they have to mentally get themselves in a place to go back and be consistent.
Absolutely. You get a friend with you too. I mean, have somebody accountable. Have somebody that struggles like you do, potentially even, and you all bounce off each other. Hey, we got to go. It's that forcing of getting into the gym.
Funny. It's funny you say that because with my example of that female athlete, I may or may not have thrown someone else to the wolf and said, "Hey, you're to go with her and race every race that she does in 6 to 8 weeks." And then from there, it was like some F-bombs and you guys suck, and but they'll do it, and that's the same thing. They'll feed off each other, and it's hey, I'll see you on Saturday.
I don't have any idea what you just said. It was actually, unfortunately, it was a bunch of feedback. I don't know what it was, but I didn't hear much of what you just said. I'm sorry.
That sucks. Do you see this look on my face? This is unhappy. Here we go.
Let's do it again.
So
what did you just say, just to make sure that the listeners heard you?
No, I was just saying that, like you were saying about find somebody to hold you accountable. The female athlete I was talking about that told to go race the next 6 to 8 weeks, I essentially contacted someone else local that is a Mind Right athlete and said, hey, you're to go with this athlete every race she does the next 6 or 8 weeks. And those athletes essentially screwed each other into doing Florida. It was like, well, I'm doing Florida. If I'm doing it, you should do it. We could train together, blah, blah, blah. And so now they're both doing it. And so they're going to go race, together. It's one of those things to where it's like, all right, I'll see you Saturday. All right, cool. I'll see you Saturday. Cool. Let's go. And you kind of jumpstart that engine. And again, but it's recognizing as a coach, recognizing what makes the athlete tick. You have to pay attention to your athletes. You have to be cognizant of each one of them ticks differently. And that's kind of where you utilize that knowledge and experience of working with those athletes.
A lot of people think coaching is easy, and to some level.
Oh, sorry.
To some level, I would guess that it is. To some people, I would think they probably have built some sort of template that they try to use for coaching. But really, coaching is very much. It's very fluid. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. And I'm not saying it's tough. I mean, coaches put themselves in these positions because that's what they love to do. However, there's a lot of work on coaches' part. It should be to make sure that they know their athletes very well.
You say that, Craig, and I catch myself from time to time almost frustrated with the line of work that I do. And yeah, I am ridiculously fortunate to have the athletes around me I do and the support structure around me and the fact that I can go for a training ride at 10 a.m. because I've got an athlete that needs to do it or I need to get it in or whatever. I do have a lot of flexibility and that luxury. But you're right. I think to do it right, you have to have a sense of passion and commitment for the athlete and their success. And so, I hear of coaches that have 100 athletes. I don't know how they do it. Like you and I have had this discussion before.
I don't get that. Good luck.
You and I have had the discussion before. And for me, anytime I feel that I'm doing an athlete a disservice, it really, truly eats at me. It really, truly bothers me. If I maybe didn't put together a strong enough race plan or I failed them leading up to the race or, other things like that. So, and, you're dealing with 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 different personalities. 30 different lifestyles, 30 different mentalities, 30 different experience levels, 30 different goals. And it is tough. However, it is probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my entire life. But there are times where I just sit here and bang my head against the wall like, oh shit, man, how am I going to continue to do this? But it's and even in that regard, I get stuck in my job at times. I get stuck. I get kind of in that rut is the only way I can explain it. You and I've had that discussion and you've snatched me out of it a few times. Again, hold me accountable. And so, I'm not immune from this. There's no way I'm immune from it. Even when it comes to my training, I'm not immune from being stuck. And luckily, I've got a coach that will snatch me up and say, "All right, dude, it's go time. It's time to do something." And so, and then working with you as well on the mental side of things, you've helped me strengthen a lot and overcome what I perceive to be barriers. And just through talking to you, I realized, no, it's just an excuse. It's not a barrier whatsoever. It's just an excuse. And so I too get stuck.
Yeah. What you mentioned earlier, you said you get frustrated, and we haven't really had a podcast on it. I don't know if it's really a big enough topic to have its own podcast, but the master of frustration and anger is expectation. And, if you never have an expectation, then you never get upset. You never get angry. I mean, you're gonna get angry about something, but generally speaking, from a especially from a coaching perspective, you have to have an expectation because you got a goal. I mean, we got places to be. And when athletes don't give everything that they have every single day, that goal over time can be more and more challenging to actually accomplish, at least on the timeline in which has been stated, and especially because, Arizona's only one day, Louisville's only one day, Steelhead's only one day. So if you're leading up to that race, there is a defined date with that. You can't wait another day.
Right.
It's like any other event. You can't wait. So from a coaching perspective, you do need to have some set expectation. However, if there's frustrations from it, the question then becomes is how bad do you really, if you're getting stuck, how bad do you really want it? Let's reevaluate. Let's talk about, what are you putting in place of the training that you need? I mean, this is an endurance podcast, and that's the emphasis on it. And so I don't want this to be, oh my God, this guy's saying you always have to think about your triathlon and you can't think about work. That's what I'm saying. The focus is triathlons or endurance sports. So in that regard, my advice is to, outside of making sure that you're happy, your home life is happy and your work life is happy, outside of that, you got to balance that and make sure you're putting in the effort that you need. So, because at the end of the day, I think a coach's frustration actually could even become, it's more of it's the pre-frustration that the athlete's going to feel at some point. Because you're already seeing what's about to happen. They don't see it yet. Right. They don't even feel it yet. But you're seeing the statistics. You're seeing all the analytics from Training Peaks or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, this is going to be bad.
Yep.
And your athlete has no idea. Athlete has no idea yet.
No, and you nailed it with, and I had a discussion about expectations. And that's something that it's not necessarily, from my point of view, it's not necessarily an expectation of I expect the athlete to do X, Y, and Z. But I could pretty much tell in a build up to a race what that athlete could possibly do time wise, which at the end of the day, my goal is to make sure that lines up with what they've shared with me. But a lot of times I find that those expectations can be tempered and that frustration can be removed or prevented through one thing. And that is clear communication, communication of expectations, because if I'm expecting them to go left and they go right, well, then all of a sudden it's like, what the hell just happened here? Right. Or an athlete says, okay, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And on Monday, I want to do this. On Thursdays, I do this. Friday, I do this. And you build it like that for the athlete. And the athlete calls an audible every freaking week. And you have given them what they asked for. Then you have communicated an expectation, but the expectation I don't think was accurate. They're portraying, and I'm not going to kind of get on a tangent, but I think that's a podcast we do need to cover because you're right, and you've taught me that expectations are they can be trouble if there's not clear communication. But going back to the being stuck, I think that to get out of that, you have to have goals, and with goals there's some form of expectation, wherein lies clear communication with your coach, with your spouse. Don't just start this and your spouse all of a sudden realizes, holy shit, they're going to be gone 14 hours a week training, or they're going to be gone 6 hours on the weekend, because if you don't have that support structure, I guarantee you get stuck real quick.
Right. Well,
you get burnout, whatever.
That's a good point. So, as an athlete, as you go to
segued like a boss for the record.
I know,
I
right?
worked my ass off for that one, but I got it.
Well, you had that written down. I'm glad you read that so smoothly. When you go to a coach and you create that goal, ask them what it's going to take. What is it going to take for me to do a full Ironman by the end of the year? And maybe you go, well, Craig, that's going to take more than you have. Or maybe you're going to say, well, that's 6. You're going to need about 15 to 18 hours a week. That's what you need to give up. And so if you're married and have children, that's the time to sit down with your wife or your husband and say, hey, I need 15 to 20 hours a week to train. Is that doable?
Right.
And so then what you do is, if not, then you adjust your goal. That's still a goal. It's just a goal that's a little bit further ahead. It's just your goal to do something maybe a little bit smaller that doesn't take as much time. Maybe it's 8 to 10 hours or whatever else it is. But no, I totally agree. And that's how you can help build the team. Involvement, creation of a team comes from inclusion, including them into the event. It's asking instead of telling. I see that a lot where people will tell their wives or husbands what they're going to do, and that never goes well. Instead, just ask, hey, I'd love to do this. Could you help me out? Could we find a way to make this happen? And if you do, then you've got support from the best people on the planet.
Let me ask you this then. So from a mental standpoint, give me a key to getting out of the cycle of being stuck, because I think it is a cycle. It's that, from my point of view, it's okay, I haven't been training much and I go and do a set and holy shit, that was hard. Man, I used to be able to ride this same route at X, Y, and Z. You have these thoughts in your head, and then all of a sudden what happens? You're like, screw it, man, I'm out of shape. I'm not going to do that set tomorrow. I'm too tired. I just don't have, you come up with all these excuses. So give me a tool, if there is one that you can think of, to get yourself to basically get out of your own damn way. Like how to get unstuck in that regard, because I think a lot of times it is being in our own way. Probably more often than not, if I had to guess. So if you could walk somebody through an exercise, what would it look like? First thing I would do is say, what do these thoughts that you have? Because you just, everything that you just said just a minute ago was an excuse. It was a reason that I can't get something. And to me, the first thing I think of, and I don't like to say excuse because people take that almost personally at times. You're just making excuses. What do you mean what? I'm not making excuses. This is real life. No, the question really is your thoughts. They're going to be either an opportunity or an obstacle. So I want you to write down what you're telling yourself. And then I want you to come back in an hour and I want you to say, is that an opportunity or is that an obstacle? And if that's an obstacle, I need to get rid of it because it's in my way. All obstacles are created internally on some level. There's always some level of opportunity. Now, it may not be the full amount. For example, maybe you had a family that's sick. That just popped. Maybe your son got sick or something. And so my opportunity today was I was going to spend 3 hours on the bike, on the trainer. Well, I don't have 3 hours on the trainer because my son's sick. Well, okay, so take care of the son. Where's the opportunity? You might lay down and fall asleep. If he falls asleep, I'm going to jump on the trainer real quick while he's asleep because there's nothing I can do while he's sleeping. And I'll spend for 2.5 hours or 30 minutes. Or 30 minutes or something. But don't just shut it down because it appears that I don't have it, because you really do. And then you just tell your coach, say, look, my son was sick and I didn't have it. But I did get in 30 or 45 minutes, and they're going to be like, man, you know what? You did a great job. Considering the circumstances, you created an opportunity out of what most people would feel as an obstacle. And I'm not just saying that's the situation, but is it an opportunity or is it an obstacle? Are you looking at the negatives or are you looking at the positives? And there's always a silver lining somewhere. Always. Yeah, absolutely. And to add to that too, I would also probably put in that same thought process is, how much does that goal you set mean to you that requires you to get on that bike for 3 hours or requires you to put in something? Because what happens is once we lose, as Dick Vitale says, the big mo, once the big momentum is gone, man, it's so hard to get that damn thing going again. That's probably got to be it's like pushing a semi up a hill once it stops. Yeah. Right. And it's how much does that mean to you? So it's like, okay, I can't get this in, like you said, I can't get in that 3 hours, circumstances, but I can get in 20, 30, 45 minutes. I can go over here and do a core set. I can do a strength set, whatever it ends up being. And if your goals are important enough to you, you will find a reason to make it an opportunity and not let it be an obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah. The barrier's within you now. And I'm not saying, skip out on your family and your sick wife or anything like that.
Sorry, babe, I'm out. I got 3 hours on the bike.
Look, you can puke all day long. I'm going to go puke on the
off.
trainer. Do your thing. I'm going to do mine. Get over it.
Right.
I'm not saying
how it works out for you.
Yeah, as you're divorced and filing a lawsuit against.
Take that advice from a single guy.
Yeah. So, not only that, but we're always seeking identity, and this is something we haven't really talked about much either. But we're always seeking some sort of identity, and when we don't feel like we have one, we can tend to attach ourselves to something, and if we are not doing something very well, that identity could be that we've just said, you know what, I'm just not very good. I can't manage my time. My effort's not very good. My coach is always on me because I'm not getting enough power output, or I'm not putting enough time on the in my shoes. I'm not getting enough pull time, or whatever it is. And you can consume that identity just like someone who's overweight consumes an identity of being overweight, and causes them problems in the ability to lose that weight. So just be cognizant of those identities, those self-identities that you can attach to yourself. And it can be kind of hard because they seep in the door kind of like water. They just kind of, next thing you know, that's who I am. And
that's good. Yeah, that's solid.
It can be very destructive. And it's sometimes hard to see. And that's part of what I do, is making sure that when I coach athletes, that they understand their identity is not, really, if you identify as being a triathlete only, and something happens, you lose a sense of self because maybe, life happens, and maybe, maybe something bad happens and you get an infection in your leg and you lose your foot. I mean, really unfortunate things happen. There's always ways around that. And you see it all the time. The neatest thing in the world is see swimmers get pulled out of the water and they're amputated at the hips.
Right.
And they're coming out of the water. So it's but anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent. Watch your self-identity. That's what I'm saying. Just watch your self-identity, because that'll pull you out of there quicker than anything, because then you'll start believing that's who you are, that you're not good and that you shouldn't continue because it's a waste of your time. Or
you start believing that you are good and you should keep continuing.
It's either direction.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, if you know what your identity is, it can that's a great point. It can actually propel you forward, and make you really believe that you can do what you can do. And a lot of times I think, in kind of wrapping this up, I think one of the most frustrating things in endurance sports is getting stuck. And I think in that time comes a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of negative energy, a lot of reflection on who you were. And what I always tell athletes, especially when I first start working with them, and they're just coming off of a break or an off season, or been working for a while, coming out of a transition period, and they do a workout and they're, oh, I'm so out of shape. Oh, I'm X, Y, and Z, and it's like, okay, look, in order to move forward to who you're going to become, you have to accept who you are. Who you are does not define you. That's just your current fitness state. And that's okay. Granted, I know that you can't run, you just ran a 26-minute 5K, 6 months ago. I get that. But you've also had a lot of training. You've taken time off. You've enjoyed life. And you're still if you look at the big picture, you're still in the top, 1-2% of fitness in the entire country, if not the world, And so if we look at it from, I guess rose-colored glasses, if you will, you look at it and you say, I always tell them, just appreciate who you are. The minute you accept where you're at is the minute that you can take a step forward towards who you're going to become through this training process and towards your goal. So getting unstuck is very frustrating, but like Craig said, surround yourself with the right people, find yourself the right mindset, make those little notes, put them on your mirrors, put them on your speedometer on your car, reach out to people like Craig and I, and access the tools that are available to you to help you get jump started again.
Right. Well, as you said, that belief in who you are, you could say, I don't have any time, so I don't do a whole lot, and so I'm not very fast. Or you could say, I'm a mother of 3 children, and I still kick an Ironman's ass. Because at the end of the day, I'm still an Ironman. Doesn't matter if it was 17 minutes and 29, 17 hours and 29 minutes or whatever it may be. The last person before they shut the lights off, Ironman's an Ironman. And then, of course, the last thing I'll say as we wrap it up, there isn't really, the more I've thought about it, the more I really have started to believe it myself. And that is, there really isn't such a thing as status quo. There really isn't this level that you just, we often think about status quo, it just never changes. But the fact is everything changes, and it changes all the time. And it may be up and down. It may be, cyclical. It just kind of goes up and down, but it's always changing. And the main ingredient to that change is your perception of it. It's the thought. Is the thought positive or is it negative? If you're giving me an obstacle or a barrier, you're negatively thinking about it. But if you returned that, kind of like you did a minute ago, you took what I was talking about, you made it a positive, then your results will be positive.
Right.
So it is critical to get unstuck. It is critical to evaluate your thoughts, write them down, and then debate them. Is it really true? And if it's not true, which I will almost bet you it's not, it's irrational. In fact, people that get unstuck tend to get a bit anxious. Is to debate those conversations you have in your head, debate those out loud or on paper, and you'll find that you'll get unstuck.
Solid. That's really good. And I've seen you work through that exact same type layout and protocol with people before, and just watch how just the layers of negative thought process and doubt just peel away, and it reveals their true core and really deep down who they think they are, but it's kind of shielded by all this other stuff. So that's very, very solid advice.
It's all thought. We're thought driven, whether we think we are or not.
Right.
Your focus, your self-talk, and your thought, those are the same creature in your mind, and the result of that positive or negative interaction with yourself is going to be a direct core. It's going to direct you to become happy and excel, or anxious, worrisome, and have tons of stress in your life.
Yep.
All you have to do is control that little box of self-talk. And I know I go, well, all you got to do is just talk good to yourself. And I get it, because we don't always talk too good to ourselves. But it's the percentage, right?
Right.
The higher the percentage, the higher likelihood you are. And it becomes habitual. The more you think positively, I get people come to me all the time and they got a negative statement, and I'm automatically rewiring it to go, nope. Or you can think about it this way, and people are like, gosh, dang you, Craig. I'm like, no, just start the process. And by the time you're over with, you're getting unstuck and you're happier and can be.
Yep.
Done. Check.
That's it. I think nothing else needs to be said on that. That's all. That finishing touch was solid.
So, if you want to get a hold of Jeremy and I, Performance on Demand Podcast at gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Also,
Gmizzle?
The G, yeah. Yep,
only, I heard this years ago, only G's have Gmail. I don't know if there's still G's in the world. I'm kind of out of that loop. But
you look like a pretty good G over there.
I'm pretty G'd up. I am. Yeah, that's me.
G for Jeremy, but it's really not a G. It's a J.
Well, it could be Jeremy. Got called. That's a whole different podcast of my past transgressions with my name. So we don't need to go there right now. That'll get it flowing. So,
well, if you want to get a hold of us, because I'm shutting him down, if you want to get a hold of us, Performance on Demand podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach Jeremy over there at mindrightmultisport.com or me at u-discover.com. We would both love to have a conversation with you. If you want to get on the podcast, please let us know. We'd love to have you. Also, if you'd like us to get involved, we've done some podcasting on air with groups of people, especially the Pathetic group. We'd love to do that. Yeah, we'd love to do that. And heck, we'd even love to come out and see you or whatever. It doesn't matter. We can make it happen.
We're setting up some of those for this year.
Yes. So give us a call if you need to, or I guess send us an email. We don't really, you can give us a call, but there's no number. But get a hold of Jeremy or I. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great one. Enjoy.
Later.
Later.